The First Amendment certainly became more prominent in 2020. Surveys show more than a 50% increase in naming any right that the First Amendment guarantees since 2017. The misconceptions around the First Amendment still continue. 65% of those surveyed agreed that social media companies violate users' First Amendment rights when they ban users based on the objectionable content they post. This came to a climax when the App Store threatened to ban Parler after the storming of the US Capitol. You might remember there was also another app that was almost banned in 2020, TikTok.
When TikTok was essentially born in China as a acquired spin-off of Musical.ly, its moderation policies, its internal community standards were reflective of the CCP's and China's values. They restricted a great deal of political dissent and even seemingly suppressed videos of certain minorities and the physically disabled. These aren't our Western liberal values.
There is an explanation as to why the app is so addictive. Its algorithm has made it easier to go viral than any other platform. The main reason for its success is that they use machine learning to evaluate the quality of every video uploaded. Another reason why TikTok is so addictive is a bit dicey. The app analyzes the user's behavior so well that it always curates the perfect flow of content for you. There are many incidents that made people realize TikTok harvests a lot of information, and any information from a Chinese company can be accessed by the Chinese government. Trump has been very vocal in his distaste for the owners of the app, ByteDance. He said the ban was needed in order to protect our national security. However, the issue is a bit larger than that.
Rather than following other particular users, on TikTok, the algorithm will, when you initially log on, attempt to use the first information you've put in and information about your device and location.
And we have no way of knowing what they do with that data. And that data can be put to an enormous amount of use. That's why it rises to the level of national security concern.
A general need for regulation of data privacy seems like the obvious solution here. The California Consumer Privacy Act, the CCPA, is designed to do exactly that. However, companies are not keen on complying with it. TikTok, for example, sends consumers to 2 additional sites to manage their targeted advertising preferences, although in their privacy policy is a claim that it does not sell your personal information to third parties. Another piece of legislation that actually ensures free speech is Section 230. It is the pillar of the internet as we know today, and actually protects free speech of every individual, including Republicans, Democrats, and the rest of us.
Europe has long attempted to use regulation and antitrust as an effective tax on American firms. And for a long time, America has benefited from a free and open internet in which mainly our firms can do business around the world without being heavily regulated or picked apart by national security concerns. However, in the US taking the lead here, really, to utilize what is ostensibly a national security concern to really force the sale of a foreign business to US firms, legitimizes other countries following this route and threatening to ban TikTok really via American app stores that operate internationally. We risk politicizing them.
As you look at a competition, there's 2 aspects to a competition. One of them is preventing the other guy from bothering you or hurting you and protecting against what he's doing. The other is protecting your ability to compete. So when you look at an issue like TikTok, we would love to maximize people's ability on the internet to do whatever they want.
The First Amendment protects both freedom of speech and freedom of association of the U.S. citizens. But what happens when those two seem to be in a clash? Parler, an app favored by conservatives, is facing that very problem. Apple, Amazon, and Google had worries the app was instrumental for storming the U.S. Capitol on the 6th of January, 2021. Under Section 230, providers are not responsible for the content of their users, so it cannot be a basis for banning apps. But the conscious lack of moderation in Parler is a direct violation of an agreement between Parler and their hosts such as Apple, Google, and Amazon.
TikTok, like a lot of other apps, gathers information about us as we use it. They're aware of what we do on the app and what we're doing on our phones while we're using the app. However, just going after TikTok in an attempt to prevent the CCP from gathering data about Americans is like bolting one stall in a barn after all of the horses have bolted. Unless there's some kind of broad-based data protection restriction or regulation, there's no reason that China or the CCP can't simply turn to other apps and the third-party data market. So TikTok's just one drop in this ecosystem.
I think many look at the U.S. for lead, and look, let's be honest, China is a huge force in the world. People have to be concerned about annoying China because China actually punishes you for not playing ball with them in economically, through the use of propaganda, diplomacy. China punishes people that don't cooperate.
They gather and store information about American servicemen and employees seeking classified access or clearances. And they were hacked by a foreign adversary, most likely China, a number of years ago. And the sort of data that was stolen or exfiltrated then, anything you would get from TikTok just pales in comparison to the kind of highly personal, classification relevant data that someone, probably China, stole about US personnel.
Look at China. I mean, China bans a lot of social networking apps. They limit how searches can be done. So the notion that somehow the U.S. by banning a social networking technology or would create some kind of precedent, well, that doesn't even stand on its face because you've seen countries do that, regardless. So there's no precedent there.
Americans use this app to communicate with one another, to express themselves. It's a valuable tool for the exercise of their First Amendment rights.
So unlike most of the free world, China does not see a distinction between the private sector and government, a distinction between the political sphere and the economic sphere or the military sphere. That functionally all these elements are instruments of the party to support the will and the interests of the party. China domestic laws say that, to put simply, any data that a Chinese company touches, the Chinese government is entitled to access to that data.
So, is there a right way to ban an app? The answer is maybe. As much as banning TikTok over security concerns is a legitimate thought, it seems a bit like an overstep on the part of the US government to ban an app through executive orders. After all, that is what China does, banning all the international social media apps to use technology as a propaganda device. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp, and many others are prohibited in China. You can even get imprisoned for selling VPN services from 9 months to 5 years. That is the China we are facing now. Inciting violence and creating a harmful platform should not be tolerated. Every social networking app is curating and moderating their content to appeal to their customers better. We should not be confusing those platforms' freedom of association with our freedom of speech. These two can coexist, and they often do coexist only in a peaceful environment.